Reviews channel of YouTube. My name is Thomas Metal 75, and this is your Massachusetts beer review. And today is a very interesting beer that I don't believe I've ever had, and it is from the Troges Brewing Company. They say independent brewing, and this one is out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. That's where Troges lives. This is their Perpetual IPA, guys, as Greg's Beer Reviews would say. Now, this beer came courtesy of a 12 pack of beer called a craft variety 12 pack, and it just said great beverages from around the world. So didn't know what was in the package, didn't know how old any of these beers were going to be, so it was cheap enough. I think it was $12 or something. And this one is freshest by, I believe it says February 20th, 2018. So not the freshest beer, but we're going to give it a chance. It's 7.5% alcohol by volume. It's a year-round beer at 85 IBUs. I wrote down some information. They're using Bravo, Chinook, Mount Hood hops. Bravo, Chinook, and Mount Hood hops. And then they use a device within the hopping of this beer called a hop back vessel. So for those hop back vessels, they're using those hop back vessel hops. They're using Mount Hood and Nugget. And for dry hops, they're using Cascade and Citra. And because I had no clue what Troges was talking about when they said they're using a hop back vessel, I found a little bit of information on the website, I looked up on Google what the hell a hop back vessel is. And basically what I found is it's a device that's inserted in the line as the beer is transferred and cooled from the boil into the fermenter. You could use whole or plug/nugget hops. In this case, they are using some nugget hops. And its purpose, the hop back vessel, is to maximize the contact of the hops between the hops and the warm wort, not wormwood. All right, Gabriel Celaya says, I live with no one. All right, I live with my family. Anyways, Gabriel, here's a beer for you. Just shut up and watch. Lo Siento. I heard a lot of good things about it. I've only seen a couple of beer reviews on YouTube. I haven't read any written reviews. They seem pretty positive. I'm going to keep an open mind just due to the fact that this is an older IPA. So it is a beautiful orangey copper color. It's a thick off-white head. Gabrielle says that no one's alive with me. I apologize, sir. I'm still getting a lot of hop oils and resin notes. Very piney aroma for sure. Grapefruit and citrus. Big old grapefruit. Big old toasty brown bready malt. Kind of piney, yes. But very malt, very brown bread, toasted malt quality in this one with the addition of those hop qualities. Smells very interesting. Smells like a bigger beer, even though it's 7.5. They are considering it an imperial pale ale. So that's what their I is, imperial pale, not just India. So cheers. Let's do it. Perpetual IPA. Brewed and canned in February. Well, I'd say it's still hoppy, which is interesting. Oh, did I mention 85 IBUs? That's a pretty whopping number. So I believe this came out in 2012 with the mindset of changing the world. Well, there was at one point where New England style IPAs were not such a thing. Gabriel, shut up. There were at one point in time where these IPAs, New England, were not such a thing. This is tasting to me more like a West Coast, but it does have some floral hop notes to it. But this is very resin pine, sappy, oily, lots and lots of grapefruit in this one. Big, bold malt sweetness. I would say that it is pretty aggressively hopped, but there is a giant malt backbone. But it's creating a lot of that giant malt backbone is creating a very sweet, kind of a citrusy flavor with the resin sticking out on this one for days. If they're trying to make a West Coast IPA out of this thing, I think they've nailed it on the head. This in 2012, I would be happy to have drank this in 2012. I'll be happy to try to find this again. I'm going to give this a 93, and I'll tell you why in a second. But it's on the high side of medium towards that high mouthfeel, full mouthfeel. It's got a lot of crispness. It's somewhat clean. You're still left with that resiny, oily, grapefruit pine note, and kind of refreshing in a way, but it's got a bigger mouthfeel and a hop resin presence that it's not overly satisfying in that regard of being refreshing and quenching. But I think what I was trying to say was, I think this probably could have been, it wasn't talked about a whole bunch that I remember hearing about, but I think this could have been a really big beer back in 2012 when, before New England style IPAs, the West Coast were, and the California IPAs were ruling the world. So very excellent on this one. So you just want a big old resiny IPA. That's only 7.5%. So even though it tastes like it's a much bigger ABV than it is, it's got the big ABV Imperial IPA from San Diego or Russian River kind of a taste to it. So with a touch of that 7.5, again, the whole thing tastes bigger than the 7.5 would let you believe, but there isn't totally a masked hop flavor or there isn't a totally masked ABV alcohol presence to this beer. So what would I want changed about this beer is I think it's on a little bit, it's almost too sweet in a way for me. I wish that the malts were a little bit diminished in this one so that the hops could take over a little bit and not make it such a sweet malty backbone. And maybe just lower malts and hops so that this is a pretty abrasive IPA, but they're kind of were going for that at 85 IBU, so I can't really fault them for that. But yeah, it's reduce the malt and reduce the sweetness, bring down the abrasive bitterness. For me, that would make it a higher rating. But as this stands, this is a great kind of I'm going to call it a West Coast style IPA. I've heard people like Chris Stiltz from Beer Geek Nation call it a mid-coast IPA. No clue what a mid-coast IPA is, Chris, but Stone IPA Ruination IPA reminds me of this. Happy Birthday from Alpine reminds me of this. And Green Flash's original recipe of West Coast IPA. Not quite as up in your face with the aggressive hopping like this one is, but that was pretty aggressive. So 93, I would definitely look for a fresher version. This is pretty good. Till next time, keep tasting those great beers. Cheers. I will see you soon. I don't have a membership to Costco. Gabriel says go and try the Costco Kirkland Signature Craft 24-pack. I never tried it, but I seen it today for $19.99. And this Wednesday is the 25th of July, 2018. On my review channel here at 10, or we're at 10 minutes. On my review channel here at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, we are reviewing the beers from Rogue Brewery. Cheers. See you soon. Hope you can join.